Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Sunday Sketch. Um, we're gonna draw a Lynel today. It's probably gonna be my last Zelda themed thing. Um, so, but it should be good. I did not draw this, obviously. This is what you're seeing now on screen is the image from the official Master Quest DLC. It was actually pretty hard to get good Lionel reference from other angles, but I did manage to find a few that I liked. We got this shot where he has his arms over his head. You get a good shot of his chest and what's going on there. Some cheeky guy with the Lionel mask, just kind of the Lionel's just kind of hanging out. Um, and then this shot from the side. So we got some decent reference to go off of, but of course, reference is really the key to everything that we're gonna try to do today. I have never drawn a centaur before, so this will be good practice, I think. Hopefully. So first, grab your references off the internet. See if you can find some good ones, and then start studying them. Start breaking them down, trying to figure out body shape and such. Okay, so first, I'm gonna flip my layers around a little bit so that I can see what I want to see. One of the important things happening in the reference is, let me get my big red marker. And as you can see, he is a centaur, of course, so we got some horse anatomy going on right in here. And horse anatomy, obviously, very different from what we've been doing so far on the show. We've been doing a lot of humanoid characters, big and round, sure, but humanoid nonetheless. So the important part, I think, given how the torso is built, like we can see here and here are where the hips are, and then you've got the body coming up through here, rib cage, and head, and so on. So I think, given, if you've been following me for a little bit, you know how I like to break these down based on the skeleton. And as you can see, we have a pretty good skeleton of the Lynel just based on this quick doodle that I did. But then you've got the weird part where it attaches to the horse body, and that's where you're going to run into some problems, right? So first off, the pelvis doesn't really exist. The pelvis is kind of also the shoulders, which I don't know how you work that in anatomically yet. I haven't, like I said, I've never done a centaur before. This is new for me as well. But we'll go through it together and try to break it down, figure out what's going on here. So the pelvis is obviously not like a normal pelvis. You may still have the pelvic bone right in here, but then I'm thinking obviously you've got this. This is sort of the front shoulder of the animal that goes into the hip. So the same knee structure or leg structure that I've been doing should work. Where you plot out the knee, you plot out from the great trochanter, if I'm getting the name right, and you make your loop from there, and that's your thigh, right? So that part should work, but then you basically go from the pelvic bone and you come down, and that's like a second sternum down there, where the horse's rib cage would be. So where on this one here, I'll show you, right? The horse's, or the Lionel's hip would be about here, and then this is his shoulder as his legs coming out here, and then the pelvis actually seems to do this shape. So you've got your great trochanter thing, your pelvis comes here, and then it just comes in, and then this is going to be your horse rib cage and also your pelvis. All very strange. But so it seems like you're building a rib cage here. You're going to do your S curve because the spine has an S curve. But then when you go in to put your pelvis in, you're actually just going to do another rib cage instead of a pelvis. So hopefully that's not too confusing. And I think I'm going to go with this pose down in the bottom right so we don't have to do so much of the, well, you know what, no, let's challenge ourselves a little bit today. I was gonna go with the bottom right so that way we could kind of ease into it, but let's go ahead and push ourselves a little bit. Gonna go ahead and take sort of hybrid pose, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and set up my pose. So I do like this look here, this pose here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that, a little bit of that pose. We're going to start out, I'm going to put in my rib cage. Then I'm going to go ahead and sort of do a twisting pose, right? So the rib cage is here, and we want the front of the chest to be about here. So that's going to be like that. But then we're going to have it twist so that the front of the pelvis is here. You got a hip bone there and a hip bone there, or the trochanter, right? So like that. So he's actually going to twist a bit. Bring his shoulders to about there. And his head about there. Okay, now this is again the tricky part, right? So we've got his pelvis kind of plotted out right here, and that wouldn't be so bad if we didn't have to do the rest of the body, or the rest of the centaur body. But we're gonna go ahead and try it. Those of you at home can watch me try to do a centaur body justice. It's not gonna be easy. But we're going to do a little bit of foreshortening, and we're going to twist the body, right? So we've got our hip there, we've got our hip here. This, we're actually going to bring this horse shoulder forward. So this leg is going to come here, and then there. And then this one is going to come back. Now, horses... you know what, let's bring in some horse reference just so that I can explain a little bit more of that. So we're gonna grab just a good old horse anatomy sheet, right? Bam. That's really big, what we brought in there. So we're gonna go hit our transform, shrink it down a bit, okay? So here's, I don't really like that. It's hard to see what's going on. Boop. 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 And this, I'm assuming it's from a textbook because of all the lines that are all over the place, but you know, it's good for learning skeletal systems. It's good for learning all sorts of things, right? So here, we're going to go ahead and drop that into our reference folder. So here, let's bring this back up. Or, well, let's back up a quick second. Okay, so when we're looking at our Lynel, right? First off, he's a bit more of a Clydesdale, and he's got, just because of how, like, thick he is, and he's got a bit more proportions put into his like shoulders and his I don't know what this section of a horse is called. I'll mark it. This section of the horse, but he's got a bit more here and a bit. So he's got a bit more here and a bit more here. So it's more like this, right? Instead of this, instead of, you can't even see that. So like on this actual horse anatomy, we've got a shoulder like that, but the Lynel shoulder is probably more like that, is what I'm trying to say. So there you go. Now you see where the horse's rib cage comes in and is kind of long like that, but then instead of the scapula, we're going to put in the pelvis. So it's almost like so you go pelvis and then rib cage, and then horse's pelvis is back here. And the horse's pelvis actually lies flatter than our pelvises do. So it's actually kind of interesting. So what that says to me here in the way we're going to do our pose is so the horse has a long rib cage, and it's going to come back this way, right, to like about there, roughly. And then we're going to go ahead and get back into our horse pelvis, which is like there-ish. And then the horse has all of these joints, right? So this is the shoulder blade, and then this is like probably somewhere in the clavicle area. I don't know all the anatomy of a horse by name, to be honest. But then they've got this hoof thing here. This would be their their shin, kind of. They've got, it looks like they got a short shin, and then they got this long thing there. I should really get the anatomy names down for you guys, because I know the trochanter, I know the rib cage, sternum, all the basic stuff like that. But like I don't know which one of these is the tibia or the femur or whatever. I just know like based on images and stuff. So that's what we got going on, right? We got a bunch of joints. So when we come to draw in our leg, it's also going to have all these joints, right? So, and again, I've never done a centaur before. This is new ground for me. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna have this one come in here to kind of balance it out. And then let's rearrange the front end a little bit so we can kind of see better what's going on, okay? So I actually put the ribcage on a different layer. But as you can see, we're going to have the pelvic bone here, and then we're going to have, we're going to do this bit is going to be where the leg would come in, and then this is going to be the long bit, and then we got that, right? And then we got, so we're going to do that. Actually, this comes backwards. Then we're going to do the long bit, the short bit, and the foot, like final foot bit. So I'm actually going to bring this forward. So this is going to be, and horses move differently when they pick up their feet. They kind of move, they like pull it back and then like stab it forward. So instead of doing like a walk like this way kind of a thing, they kind of like scrunch their leg up like that, and then they extend it. So it's kind of cool. I've done a walk cycle for horse legs before, and I thought it was really interesting. But anyways, so we're gonna bring this forward more, and he's gonna be standing like that. Okay. So we've got kind of our makeshift skeleton, and again, as with all my videos, we try to refine as we're going along here. Always trying to learn more. as we're sort of discovering a lot of the shapes to the characters and things. So making a new layer, and we're gonna fade those out, and now we're gonna start building in our anatomy. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll fade those out more, but I want to keep them there for reference. So we're gonna take a black pencil, or you can take traditionally I think animation and stuff they used like a light blue pencil, but I use big red marks so y'all can see what I'm doing. Try to use big blue pencil. I don't know if that'll work or not. We'll see. So we're just gonna go right into it. Let me bring up the chat so that I can see everything. Okay, there we go. So here we go. We've got our skeleton the way we want it, mostly, except for the arms. And I didn't add the arms because we've done arm anatomy on this show so many times that I think establishing the more difficult parts is going to be more important, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start to refine our anatomy shapes, right? So we've got our head here. And the Lynel has what you can see is a very wide kind of neck. Because you can see that, right? It's got its head there, and then its shoulders are out to here, but then it's got this big mane that kind of fills in this space. But it's got very thick neck muscles, I would imagine, at least. So we're gonna go ahead and put those in like that. Then we're gonna do, because it also, when they have a longer neck, right, they do the same kind of a thing. Tend to bulk up the neck muscles for those inhuman or not quite human heads. So then we're gonna put the pectoral muscles in. And then this is where it's going to get tricky, because this is where we're actually going to twist it around, right? So let's actually do that first. Put the twist in. Now, when we're putting the twist in, so we got the front of the pelvis here. And we want to keep the front of our body basically situated the same. And things can't twist super far. So actually, let's go ahead and define this twist first before we put in those. I thought maybe I could do the torso first, but without that defined twist, I don't know what direction the torso is going to be pointing in. So here's the front of the pelvis. We come up through to the front of where the sternum is going to be. So the sternum is actually going to be pointing almost at us, at the camera, right? And then we're going to have the rib cage right in here. And the abs are going to come here. So this front panel basically is going to be what we're defining, building up. So it's not a huge twist, looks like. But it is noticeable. It is there. So we're going to put in our shoulders, and then we're going to build up the neck. And, it's okay to erase and, get things wrong and try and go over it again. That's part of the learning process, part of the... I know I keep saying that in my videos, but it really is true, especially when you're developing skills, you're developing characters. There's a lot of exploration that goes into it, and you need to allow yourself to have some fun, cut yourself some slack, and make mistakes, but then learn from them, and that's life. horse hoof would be like there. So this is starting to look more like a centaur. But I'll tell you what it's not looking too much like yet is a Lynel. But we'll get there. And you see how the groin kind of comes up a little bit. And then horses tend to have more or less like that. So this is a very slender-looking centaur at the moment, but we'll get him beefier, because that's one of the defining traits of a Lynel, is that big beefy body, right? Okay, so now we're gonna try and get that stylized look from the Lynel. Now that I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with where the muscles are, gonna try and build out some of those Lynel traits. So the first thing that we notice, right, is that he's definitely got this powerful look to him, big rippling muscles all over the place, and these big swole arms, right? He's a beef kick. He's a beef kick. Don't know why I went to South African accent for that, but I don't know. Just felt like it was funny to say it that way. You know what? Let me bring the layer up a little bit, because I feel like that muscle definition isn't right. And you know what? It isn't. I don't think his pectorals come all the way down to there. Let's zoom in on that a little bit, get a good idea for the shape. There we go. So his pectorals actually follow a lot of what we've been doing with other humanoid characters. And then so this is his rib cage and all of that delicious bulging, rippling muscles. Arnold would be so proud, I'm sure. And then he's got this interesting shape right in here, basically, is this like panel thing, and you can see it on like some bodybuilders sometimes. Just, I'm not saying go Google muscle men, but you can definitely tell this dude's been working out, and you can tell where his six-pack is, and this is, I believe, called the xiphoid process, this little diamond shape in here. It's a little tiny, like, bit at the end of your sternum. So anyways, got some good I feel like I have a lot better understanding of how his torso works, and he's got these giant arms, really. So we're gonna go ahead and take that and translate it to our guy, right? So we're gonna bring his shoulders up even more, just exaggerate the crap out of them. And now I'm gonna go ahead and go a layer below, because I want to actually decide what these arms are doing. So this arm, we're gonna have it come down from the shoulder and just kind of come to rest at his side, right? And this arm is gonna come, I think, out. Yeah, out a little bit and then down is what I'm gonna do. Yeah, that sounds good to me. So we've got a general idea of where the arms are gonna go, because we need that to draw them in. Ooh. So here we go. Got that going on. We've got our big pectoral muscles that feed into our shoulders. And these big arms. And I'm pretty much drawing the muscle groups and stuff the same way I've been drawing them for a while. So this is nothing new. It's just kind of getting an idea for general shape and things. So then this is gonna be so then that's going to be where our xiphoid process is. This is going to be part of the rib cage definition, and then this is going to be where our kind of six-pack thing comes in and the panel there. And then we're going to come up, and this is going to be that nice right in here area, you see? That actually comes all the way back up to here, right? And so then we're going to have that twist in there looking pretty good. And it looks like that, the sort of bulge area here is what feeds into the, like on a normal person, this this panel here, the panel, it kind of looks like a panel, but it's, you know, this muscle area here is what sits over your hip, right? So we're gonna have that feed into our Lynel horse shoulders, and again, they have a lot more emphasis on those horse shoulders, so we're gonna make them nice and big and proud. Big old horse shoulders. And then this is going to do the same thing here. Now, horses, they actually have a muscle. Let me go back to my red pen here. Horses actually have their pectoral muscles are kind of diamond shaped in the front. So what actually is going to happen here on our guy is this sort of shape here, right? And that's kind of how the pectorals work on a horse. But of course we're bringing this shoulder forward, so we're going to do what it's actually going to look like is more like this. And then that's going to be our shoulder. And you can see it on a lot of animals. If they have good muscle definition and stuff, you can see that sort of diamondy zone right at the front of them. Sometimes the fur kind of covers it up, but that's more or less how the muscles go. And then we can see from the side here this shape. It's pretty lean, actually. So we're going to go ahead and put that in, and we're going to do this before we go into the rest of the arm because we don't want to overlap too much. But then the trick here is going to be getting that stocky feel, right? Because he's got these big, round bits right there. Like, you could draw it like that if you want, actually. You know, more like that. It's not, you know, you don't have to draw it exactly the way I'm doing it, but I'm giving you the information, right? So shoulder here, so on my guy, shoulder here, and then it's gonna be there, and there, and then the hoof, which is pretty massive, actually. And how a horse's hoof goes is they've actually got, so they've got the hoof area like that, and then they've got this little bit of an ankle, right? And then it goes into the foot like that, right? So that's what I'm trying to get across with this little gap there, okay? And if your horse has wrapped, ankles and stuff, they're not going to show that as much. So then we're going to place this other hoof back here, and so then we're going to get this nice angle. Maybe bring that back, but we'll maybe push that back a little further, but we'll see how far we get here as we go along. So we're gonna go ahead, and it looks like the horse rib cage kind of comes back here, and then the hips are here. So we're actually gonna give just a little bit of space between that and his horse bootay. But then, of course, trying to get that, again, nice, big, stocky, round shape. Let me move this around a little bit so I can get a good comparison, but so you can get a good comparison as well. So we're going to take this shot, we're going to move this out a little bit, and you can see we've got so his pelvis is in here somewhere, and then we've got this shape, that's his butt right there, and you can see what I think these are called hocks or withers, maybe. Again, my horse anatomy is not amazing, but you can see that's basically what his back leg is doing. His spine's up here, right? And then he's got this little divot bit, and then that goes into the rib cage is in here, and everything we've drawn already, right? So we're going to try and emulate that, but of course I'm doing it at kind of a different angle. So we've got this bit that goes in here, then we've got this, then we've got his big old horse rump. Make it a little bit bigger. We are at a little bit of an angle here, so that's why this is getting a little trickier. And horses usually have a pretty flat area across the top, so so then that's gonna hook up with this section, which is this right here, and then let's fade out our references some more so I can see what I'm drawing. Okay, so this section hooks into right there. This section that you see me draw from like here to down here. And then it looks like he's got some kind of a bracelet thing. And then his lower hoof, right? So we're actually pretty close, pretty right on there with the horse anatomy. Make this leg in the back a little shorter, I think, is going to be the key. And there we go. Now this is a little all over the place. I'm actually going to move this back leg to be, so I'm going to try now to kind of set him on a ground plane, and I probably should have done this before, but I'm not super comfortable with, I feel like, horse anatomy as I could be. So setting him on a ground plane would have been a little difficult. So we're going to put him here. Going back, I'm going to try and put the ground plane parallel to his horse spine. So we have a foot coming forward, and then we're actually going to put this back foot in right here. And then his other feet are spread out. So I think the pose actually works okay. I think maybe we could bring this hoof in more. Oh, you know what's bothering me? What it is it's that section right there. Because this needs to go up, but then this should actually be overlapping more like that, since we're seeing it from the front end, and then bring this in more. So he doesn't have quite as much horse butt. I mean, he still has quite a bit of horse butt, but when we're doing foreshortening on the body, we got to kind of take the horse butt in just a little bit. So then we got that shape, we got that shape, and we're gonna bring our hoof in to there. That feels a lot better to me. I'm gonna go with it. So let's get rid of this ground plane a little bit so I can see all the nice angles. That goes there, that goes there, and then you go back there. It's important to get your sketch right first, so that when you go to do your paint overs, when you go to do your other whatever other project you want to like put this into, whatnot, that's when you start getting your detail in there. So you want to make sure that your base is correct first, or as correct as you want it. So I feel like that's a much better place to be with the front end and the back end of the horse. I think I'm mostly happy with where this is, although I do want to shorten that back leg up a little bit as well. So we're going to actually bring it up here. And have it go up into there like that. That's better. Okay. I can live with that. Alright, so now we're going to put in his big bulky arms, which, as we discovered before, kind of start up here, come down, and actually end right about there. So I did draw them a little bit long. In the previous layer. Erase some of the bits behind it so that we don't get too distracted by different shapes and such. And there we go. We have that's actually pretty happy with how that centaur came out. Alright, so now we're going to put in the head, because of course that's the important part. He's got to have that cool lion head with the horns. So his face, let's go ahead and take a closer look at his face. That might not be the one we want. Let's go take a look down here. And that's really blurred out. No, it's good enough. It's good enough. So we're gonna go ahead and grab this reference, bring it up here into the front, because we're gonna start studying from this now. Alright, so as you can see from his face, switch to my red. Boom. Right, okay, got it. So, face is very angular. You can tell where his cheekbones are because that's also where his face floof comes in, right? His eyes are here and here. Got a big nose that's kind of that shaped. And then from his nose, his brow just comes right down into the top of that nose shape. And then his mouth. But again, you can tell where the cheekbones are because if we take a good close look, and that's a little too close, you're starting to get pixelated. But if you take a good close look at these beautiful whiskers here, those come in at his cheeks, right? So his cheekbones are going to be like right above that, basically. And you can tell where the cheekbones are because they're basically outlined for you. So when we're looking at his face, you can be like, oh, his cheekbones are right here and right here. And then this shape leads into the brow. So it's all very nicely detailed on there. And I want to say his mouth is open, but it's kind of hard to... No, his mouth is definitely open because you can see his bottom lip and his kind of teeth that he's got going on there. Okay, so we're going to try and get that same look going on our dude. Come back up here, grab my pencil, and we're going to build up... Oops, that's white. I'm going to build up his shoulders. Oh, should go a little bit bigger on my... pencil. So we're going to build up his shoulders, build up his neck, decide that his head is going to go... So let's see. There, and then we're going to put his head in about there. Back of his head comes here. It's important that you have the back of his head too, because that helps define things like the top of his head and stuff like that. So you can see kind of where I'm starting to build out the head shape, right? And then this is actually going to come down a little bit, not too much, because that's where his face is actually going to come out, and his jawline, right? And you always want to have the jawline come out from the head. So we're going to have... I'm not drawing lightly enough to see it very well. So we're going to have the jawline come out from the head. So it's going to have that face. That face. That face. Okay. Fade that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Fade this. Okay. So we're going to build up the face, and I'm going to give him just a plain old kitty face. I'm going to decide, okay, so his eyes, so his cheekbones are going to be one of the most important landmark features that we're going to look for. His eyes are going to be about there, near where his cheekbones are, right? Because he's got that strong brow. Got a big nose, and then his mouth is going to be right there. That was pretty easy, actually. Let's see how his hair kind of builds up off of his face. Okay, so... two things. One, his horns are kind of oddly situated. So his horns are actually like at the towards the back of his skull. You can see here, right? His face is here. His head presumably stretches back to there, and then he's got horns coming out of here, which is a little strange to deal with, but I'm gonna try. So we're gonna redo his face a little bit. We're gonna decide his face because we gotta do the back of his head, which I already kind of mapped in, and then his horns come out of the back of his skull. So we're gonna put the base of the horns in, but we're not gonna do too much. We're not gonna build the horns up just yet because we gotta build up the rest of his face. And then he's actually got quite a bit of distance from there, so we're actually gonna put his face in even lower than we did before. But it's gonna be roughly the same shape. So he's actually got this weird hump going on, which may mean we need to rearrange his neck a little bit to help support it, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So, got the cheekbones in there, got the eyes here. And then we got the kitty face. Then we got this big old plume of mane that comes off of him, and I like to just be pretty crazy with the mane because it goes all over the place. The one thing is you got to make sure that you get the face in there with it, and then the other bit is I believe he's got ears in there somewhere, but you can barely see them. You can see them here. So he's got ears that come off of his head like that, right? So that shape, and then ears come back here and seem to be more like cow-shaped. And then we're gonna put in the rest of the mane. Cow ears are funny that way, I think. So his ears are actually visible like outside of his mane, just a little bit. Gonna make him nice and floofy. That's his chin floof and his face floof. And I'm gonna hide that for now because I think we've got all the information we need off of it. And he's gonna look roughly like that ish. And then we're gonna take this, and now the horns are gonna be interesting because what we're gonna do is we're gonna follow. So we built the base of our horns, and then we're gonna actually follow the outside ridge of our horns. We're gonna decide what shape they're gonna be, right? And so that's the outside edge, and then we're gonna build up the horns based on that. So then we have the side of one side of our horn, the other side of our horn build up into that shape, and then probably kind of cut some away until we get our horn shape, right? And then you can adjust it, play around with it, kind of like sculpting. It looks like a horn. And then of course I'd cut out my lights and shadows, so if I wanted light to hit the top of the horn, I'd be like, okay, so this is where the top of the horn is. There's all kinds of things you can do, but as long as you get that horn shape, that's going to be the important part. So start of our horn is going to be here and here, and then the horns come out, And as we've seen from our references, the horns sort of take this frontal cornucopia kind of thing going on. So they're gonna come out and curl up. So back of the head is back there, come up like that, right? Or as we can see here, they kind of come up like that, like ram horns, almost. Actually, do I have this right? Let me take. No, let me re-examine this because I feel like I'm getting the head shape wrong. Let's re-examine this a little bit. Oh, I see. No, it was just dark on the reference. On this reference. So his horns are actually much closer than I thought to the front of his face, because that's here and here, and then his face is right here. I thought they were back here, but that's actually the tip. So I did that all wrong. Forgive me. Just go ahead and ignore that monster of a face that I did. There's still some decent information there, but we're gonna go ahead and fix what we did there, because it started to look messy to me, and I'm like, there's something fishy going on here. So we're gonna fix that. Again, apologies for leading y'all astray. Skip that part of the video. Let's erase that. That's distracting. What? Why? There we go. Okay. Make sure I'm on the right layer. Okay, so what it actually is going to be like is we've established our cheekbones. Again, this part is still going to be useful information. Established our cheekbones, our jawline. That comes back. Then we've got this shape going on. Establish our eye points, our brow line. And then from our brow line we have the nose, which is going to be large, maybe not that large. That's pretty large. Get our nose and our mouth. The ears do seem still to come from down here, or come out down here, like a cow's, instead of like a lion's, which I think is an interesting choice. And then this is actually going to be the start of our horns. And according to the reference, let's get that side view. Yeah, they just come out and curl up. They don't seem to overlap the ears at all, so it's just gonna be, here's the back of the horn. It's just gonna come up. And they come up, they actually come up pretty, they don't go over the eye much. So, and they come up pretty high. So I think from this angle, we're actually gonna see more of the horn come this way. Like that. And then come up this way like that. So that's proving to be a little tricky. And then we're going to put in our glorious mane. However you want the mane to go. Again, I'm loosely drawing the hair in here. I did this, I think, last time with the Hinox, because he had the fluffy bits, right? I'm not going to draw in all the detail on the mane, just the bits that I need. So this is going to be part of his where it comes off of his face, and then I'm going to look at the general shape of the mane. It does come down. He's got this kind of beard thing going on, and then comes up to a point here from the looks of things, and this is going to go ahead and confirm that a bit, because he's got that shape there, and then this shape here, and then it just all comes back into a glorious mane, whatever, right? So we're going to go ahead and take that information, we're going to put in that shape there, this shape here, give him one of those nice beardy things, and then this is just going to build up from there. Maybe a little tall there. There we go. Build up like that. We're getting somewhere. This one, I think, has been the most challenging of the drawings we've done so far, for sure. Okay, so we have our muscles, we have our centaur shape. We've got our what was this? Oh, that was outlining his mane. I'm actually gonna bring this down a little bit because that's way up there, but I am gonna try and keep that point. Like that. There we go. Alright, and we got a horn there, and we got a horn here. That's starting to look pretty good. Well, we're starting to get somewhere. Okay, so now we can go ahead and fade that out and start to build it up again. And this is the process I use for a lot of detail work, is to make a new layer, and I go from big swoopy shapes and big gestural kind of ideas, right? And then I start building in the specifics, and I get a smaller and smaller brush size or pencil as I go. So we're going to take a look at what his eyes look like. The general eye shape seems to be up, like that. So we're going to go ahead and take that. Feed into our nose a little bit, as they do. And then his area around the eyes, or around the pupil, is all dark, which I think is pretty interesting. It kind of helps them be like, this is a bad guy, obviously, because he's got weird, evil eyes. And then he's got the lion nose, so that's going to be kind of thick like that. And then we're going to add the mouth in. Let's fade that a little bit more. And then there's this area right under your lip that you can kind of see. That's what I'm putting in there. And then that's also where his beard is going to start for my drawing. Is this section there. Then he's got the brow line. Actually doesn't look too bad. Or he's starting not to look too bad. So again, you know, I took the details and it looked really sketchy and kind of meh, and I'm just refining it again. And it's just that's the secret. If there was a secret, that is it. Just add, refine, take away, pretty much as you go. And some of these details, you know, that just comes down to what choices you want to make. All these extra lines and stuff, they're not necessarily important. I'm going to add the horns in next because of just how the shape is coming along. And the horns do have these ridges happening with them, so when you look at your reference, you can definitely tell that the horns are ridged. So definitely don't forget that. That's an important detail piece. And it helps you define the shape of the horns as well, having those ridges in there. Definitely not a bad thing at all. Actually going to cover some of that up with his mane. But I like to establish where the airline is. I think I made his eyes a little bit too wistful. He's kind of got a little bit of the anime pretty boy eyes. Need to make his eyes a little sterner, more powerful, less rounded, so that he gets that more evil look to him. And I'm not sure how to do that, to be honest. I don't know how to make him not dreamy-eyed. Gonna try. Maybe if I square them off a little bit. Ah, take out the pupils. There you go. That works. You take out the pupils, and he's got less there to relate to. I think. I think it works. Maybe it's not just the eyes. I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys think? Does he look too weirdly handsome? There's a certain face, you know. I think the nose is working towards being a lion. The oh, you know what? His mouth is way bigger and more monstery. Maybe I gave him too small a mouth. Let's try messing with his proportions a little bit, cuz he's looking a little bit too handsome there. So we're going to push his nose up and his mouth up a little bit. We're going to give him a big, wide, angry mouth. That's better. That's actually a lot better. Now he looks way more like a monster. And less like someone's OC on DeviantArt. You know, if you want to push him that way, go right ahead, but I want mine to look like a monster. So I took his pupils out, made it, and then gave him an angrier mouth. Looks way more monstrous. I think that works. Okay. Moving on. Just doing little hair details at this point. You know, just like we did with the Hinox. And then I'm going to give him the ears, but I'm going to go ahead and cover up a bunch of it with his big furry mane. And this is the part where I'm going to start transitioning towards more of a beard, because the beard kind of goes down, right? So we're going to take this and kind of go down this way. But then we gotta define some of the... You don't want to leave it too featureless, right? So when we look at it, we want to be like, oh, okay, here's that, right? If we took those lines out here, I'll show you what it looks like, right? Bam. There's all of this like undefined space, and so it helps to just put in a little bit more shape, a little bit more shading, that kind of thing. And you can do that with just little line strokes. To give it a little bit more depth. See? Already does wonders. And then we're going to put in his little beard bit. Or his little bushy thing. And again, we're going to just add some strokes heading, you know, towards back towards him, to give it more definition. And then a little bit up there. There we go. Get rid of that horn bit, because that's over where his mane is. We're going to go ahead and bring that... No, that causes a weird tangent. Don't do that. Haha. Going to have a bit come out like that. That's better. Nope, that's too much. Don't be afraid to experiment with the hair. you know, having it go off in different directions and things. You know, maybe I'll just leave it like that. That's fine. That looks fine to me. Yeah, experiment with having the hair go off in all sorts of different crazy directions. You know, do your own thing with it. Spin it however you want. But when you're doing the face, you definitely want to try and, unless you deliberately want it to be less monster-ish, you want to try and avoid certain human characteristics. Try and make an exaggerated mouth, looks like to me. I took the pupils out of his eyes to help make him look more monstrous. Maybe we give him a little bit more definition on the upper lip. You know, just experiment with pushing his face around. I know that's gonna sound a little weird, but just see what you like. But you definitely, there are some characteristics that you want to make sure you maintain, right? And that's gonna be this. Oops, not that shape. This shape to the nose, and then his brow line starts right there. And then he's got this like Magneto helmet thing going on. His face is basically, that's the shape of his face, basically. And then you put the, I said basically a lot just now. And then you put the mouth in. But then, you know, build up the head. You want to make sure you have the rest of the head, obviously. Right? And then the horns. The horn, you gotta have the horns, gotta have the like cow ears, gotta have the things, right? And then let's bring some of that back. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. Just point out some characteristics, right? So he's got big arms, so you want to make sure that you have big arms. You want to make sure that you bring the torso in a little bit, because he's got kind of a narrow waist before he ends up in the horse body. You want to connect the horse body where at the same part on a horse's front shoulder, that's going to be the same spot as the Lynel's torso's hip. Or I kind of line things by the great trochanter. So and then the horse has a look at horse anatomy with the legs and things, but then exaggerate it to be like a horse on steroids. Get it all muscly and stuff. Okay? I think that is all that I've got time for today. It's been, we're running a little over an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and call it here. Thank you for joining me. This was quite a bit of a challenge, and I had fun. Hopefully this helps you guys draw some amazing Lynel art, some good Legend of Zelda fan art. What would you guys be interested in drawing next? You know, I could go into more video game stuff. I could try and do something a little bit more realistic. I am open to suggestions. I've got my own ideas, so if I don't hear anything back, of course, I will have another video next Sunday. No worries there. But probably going to be veering off of the Legend of Zelda stuff for just now. I may come back to it in the future because there's plenty to draw there, but I think I've exhausted Breath of the Wild for now for me, so I'll be moving on to something else next Sunday. Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, found some helpful information here, you know, I draw with my own style, but again, I want you guys to just get have some information available to you, practice, use those references, and if any of this video helped, then that's another small victory. So there you go. Draw some art, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye, friends.